The anthem reminds us the true north is indeed strong and free.
A stunning display of sovereignty in the face of Donald Trump's annexation threats. The king delivers a rare speech from the throne and opens Canada's parliament. And we have a reaction tonight.
And a string of suspicious fires at restaurants in Scarborough has investigators trying to connect the dots. We're now learning at least 2 are linked.
Plus, saying goodbye to the Bay. Canada's oldest retailer is getting ready to shutter all stores by Sunday. That's also when more than 8,000 workers are going to lose their jobs.
This is Live at 5. Good evening, I'm Phil Perkins.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thanks for joining us and welcome to Live at 5. Police are investigating 3 separate fires at Scarborough restaurants in the last 4 days, and they say 2 of them are connected.
Now, for the latest on the investigation, let's go live to CP24 crime analyst Steve Ryan. He's at Kennedy and Lawrence. Steve.
Yeah, Phil and Lena, so there was a fire this morning on Birchmount. There was a Greek restaurant that was on fire. Now, the police have said today during a press conference that that fire is not connected to the 2 fires that we're going to discuss right now. So we are at Kennedy and Lawrence. There were 2 fires in a short distance from one another. The one we're at now started on Saturday. We reported this fire. Fires say that this happened at 3:30 in the morning. In fact, we obtained video surveillance that shows 2 suspects breaking the window of this location at 3:20 in the morning. They entered the restaurant for about 20 seconds. They came out. One had a canister in their hand. They doused it with some sort of flammable liquid, as we're showing you the video right now. And then there was a match of some sort of flame that was thrown on that location to cause that to burst into flames. That is now being investigated as an arson. And on Friday in the early morning hours, police say that 3 suspects entered a restaurant with people inside of that restaurant, and that was intentionally set on fire. And luckily, those people that were inside of that restaurant were able to escape. So the 2 fires that the police believe were connected are the 2 restaurants, 2 Indian restaurants that were set on fire, one on Friday and one on Saturday. There is no mention from the police as to why they are connected, just that they are believed to be connected in some form. Whether or not they were the same owners or what have you, the police would not say, nor would they say whether or not the suspects that they believe were responsible for the first Indian restaurant fire were the same suspects that were responsible for the fire that we just showed you with the video surveillance. Now, we did hear from Toronto Police earlier on with regards to these investigations, and we heard from Councillor Michael Thompson as well. And here's more from both of them. Let's listen.
At this time, we do believe that these 2 incidents are connected. I do want to clarify, however, that investigators do not believe that a separate fire that took place this morning, also in the area, is related to these 2 incidents. That investigation is still in its early stages, and it is being treated separately.
It's a 3rd one in less than a week here in the community. It's very disconcerting. It's very disappointing. It's very difficult for the community as a whole. It just seems as if we're under siege. It's obviously difficult for the business owners as well with respect to what's taking place. This is unbelievable. I've never seen anything like this before, but I can assure you that every effort's being taken to get to the bottom of this.
Now, I reported on this fire here on Saturday, and at the time, guys, I did report that some of the business owners at this location had said to me that that restaurant that was set on fire on Saturday just opened up 2 weeks ago. So that certainly will not be lost on the investigators. It will be part of the investigation. And does the fact that this restaurant only opened 2 weeks ago have something to do with the fact that it was deliberately set on fire early Saturday morning? I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Steve Ryan, trying to connect the dots in Scarborough. Steve, thanks so much for this. We'll take you to Leslieville now, where one person has been charged after a body was found inside of a home.
Yeah, CP24 was over the scene at Larchmont Avenue near Queen Street East. Police say officers responded to the home yesterday for a wellness check where a dead person was found inside. 67-year-old Bobby Choi Ying Kwan was arrested at the scene and charged with interference to a body. An autopsy is being conducted to determine how the person died. Residents can expect officers in and around the home for the next couple days for their investigation.
2 more people are facing charges in a deadly double shooting that happened in Riverdale last month.
18-year-old Quinton Caza and 20-year-old Jeremy McNeil were fatally shot while sitting in a vehicle near Logan and Bain Avenues on April 15th. A 17-year-old boy was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder back on May 3rd. Police say another 17-year-old boy and 18-year-old Abdul Rahman Zain were taken into custody in Barrie yesterday. Both are charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder.
We know this incident has caused great sadness and concern in the Riverdale community. 2 young lives have been lost to violence, and many lives have been changed forever. We hope that these arrests offer some reassurance that those responsible are being held accountable. Now, this remains an active investigation, and we are continuing to gather evidence. We ask that anyone with further information to please come forward and speak with us or call Crime Stoppers anonymously.
These are the 9th and 10th homicides in Toronto so far this year.
All right, well, 3 men are facing charges in an attempted murder investigation, this time in Richmond Hill.
York police sharing photos of guns and drugs seized during 2 raids. The investigation started after a woman was dropped off at a hospital with a gunshot wound on the morning of May 16th. Investigators eventually determined she was shot near Yonge Street and Major Mac. 29-year-old Surgeon Dino and 31-year-old Deshaun Abrahams are facing a number of charges, including attempted murder. 32-year-old Jason Zagazeta is charged with accessory after the fact.
And 2 people have been injured in a collision in North York.
Toronto police responded to a 2-vehicle crash just after 3:30 this afternoon at the intersection of Don Mills and York Mills Road. We're giving you a live shot of that scene tonight. This crash caused one of the vehicles to roll over. You can see significant damage. 2 people suffered minor injuries here. The cause is still under investigation. Pretty heavy police presence in that area, so expect that intersection to be closed for the next little while.
Yeah, plan a different route for sure. And the province's police watchdog has taken over the investigation into a crash in Burlington.
An overturned white sedan can be seen on Appleby Line with a hydro pole leaning over the road. This was near Britannia. Halton police say 5 people were taken into custody at the scene in connection with home invasions in Oakville and Milton between 3 and 4 o'clock this morning. 2 were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say no one was injured in either of the home invasions.
It's 5:07, 21 degrees. Watching live at 5.
For the first time in nearly half a century, a monarch has delivered Canada's speech from the throne, outlining the Prime Minister's priorities for the upcoming parliamentary session. We're going to have more on the significance and the symbolism coming up.
Definitely not your average Tuesday in Ottawa. A day of pomp and pageantry in the nation's capital as King Charles and Queen Camilla completed a whirlwind trip to Canada in the midst of the trade war with the U.S. They arrived at the Senate building by horse-drawn landau this morning. The King received full military honors, including a 100-person honor guard, 21-gun salute, and an inspection of the guard.
The Royals were joined by Governor General Mary Simon for an Indigenous performance when they arrived inside. They then joined a procession into the Senate where the monarch, King Charles III, delivered the speech from the throne, laying out the government's goals for the new session of Parliament. All of this meant to send the Donald Trump administration a very loud and clear message. Here's more on what King Charles highlighted when it comes to the federal government's priorities in his speech.
The government is guided by its conviction that the economy is only truly strong when it serves everyone. Many Canadians are struggling to get ahead. The government is responding, reducing middle-class taxes and saving 2-income families up to $840 a year. It will cut the GST on homes at or under $1 million for first-time home buyers, delivering savings of up to $50,000. And it will lower the GST on homes between $1 million and $1.5 million.
Well, for reaction to the throne speech, let's go to the newsroom now. CP24's Arda Zakarian breaking it all down.
Yes, let's talk about that speech and that relationship that was touched on between Canada and the United States. So first of all, this was the first time since 1977 that a monarch has come to Canada to deliver that throne speech. And we know King Charles has said that the two nations, Canada and the United States, have begun defining a new economic and security relationship to deliver transformational benefits for both sovereign nations. He also said that Canada can build new alliances and a new economy. CTV Royal commentator Richard Berthelsen says this was a moment of Canadian unity led by the monarchy.
One of the surprising things about this visit is the massive crowd size, the number of people who wanted to turn out and support. I heard lots of cries of God save the King, we love the King, all this kind of things were being said. So this really acted as a unifying moment after a very difficult period for Canadians in understanding where their country fits and the challenges we've seen from the South. So that was the point of the visit, the visuals, the strong sense of Canadian iconic moments, the RCMP, the military, the Air Force flew over today, the War Memorial, the Senate, Indigenous people playing a key role. All those moments reinforce our sense of uniqueness and distinctness as a country.
There were some critics, though. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says his party isn't satisfied with the plans that were laid out in the throne speech, and they will make amendments to it or ask to make amendments to it.
We're here to turn the government's talking points into real plans. We pledge to work with the government to repeal the anti-energy law, C-69, repeal the energy cap, the electric vehicle mandate, the offshore shipping ban. Let's get our pipelines building. Let's get our goods to markets other than the United States. We're here to propose cuts to bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, and corporate welfare so that we can bring down taxes, debt, and inflation.
And before the royals left to go back to England, King Charles said he referenced his late mother, the Queen's visit to Canada, and said that it's a source of great pride that in the following decades that his mother visited, Canada has continued to set an example to the world in her conduct and values and a force for good. He also said, as the anthem reminds us, the true north is indeed strong and free. Back to you.
Right, Arda Zakarian live in our newsroom with more on the King's rare speech today. Arda, thanks so much for this. Well, former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien is recovering from minor heart surgery after receiving a stent.
Chrétien was absent from King Charles' speech from the throne today. A spokesperson says that he was admitted to hospital in Ottawa yesterday after feeling unwell. The 91-year-old was transferred to the Ottawa Heart Institute and received, as we mentioned, a stent. The spokesperson says Chrétien is recovering well and is expected to return home very soon to pursue his normal activities.
Well, a statue of John A. Macdonald will soon be available for viewing nearly 5 years after it was boarded up.
The monument to Canada's first Prime Minister was encased in boarding back in 2020 after it was vandalized multiple times by protesters. Earlier this month, MPP Paul Calandra tabled a motion to remove the covering and put the signage back up. That was seconded by Liberal MPP John Fraser.
While Macdonald is considered the father of Confederation, he was also a key figure in the implementation of the Indian residential school system. During widespread protests 5 years ago, the statue was defaced with paint on a number of occasions.
I think the sentiment is that, our history, as broken as it is in some ways, the good and the bad, we have to be clear on what our history is. And I think we have to acknowledge that. There's more work to be done to acknowledge it, and that's the reality.
It will be cleaned. It takes a while for that to occur. And then there is a protective film that is put on the statue to prevent further damage if there is any vandalism. They're in the process now of figuring out how to move forward with that. Afterwards, it will be done this summer. I'm guaranteed it will be done this summer. I can't give you a specific date as to when the hoarding is coming off, but the first thing is cleaning and treating the statue.
The statue has been on the south lawn of Queen's Park since 1894, 3 years after John A. Macdonald died.
It is now 5:16, 21 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
New court documents say more than 8,300 workers will have lost their job and some benefits by the time Hudson's Bay closes all of its stores this Sunday.
Well, less than a week to go now before all Hudson's Bay stores close as part of the court-approved liquidation process. And we're now learning the store closings also mean thousands of employees will be out of work.
Yeah, CP24 CJ Liu joins us live with the latest from outside the Bay at Eglinton Square. CJ, it's a lot of people. That's like some small towns in this province.
Absolutely, Phil and Lena. We're talking about 89% of the Hudson's Bay workforce. That equates to around 8,300 workers who will be out of a job by this Sunday. Around 900 employees will get to work for just a little bit longer. They'll be on for about 2 weeks or so, helping wind down the operations. But by June 15th, 900 employees will lose their job as well. So over the next 2 weeks, you're looking at over 9,000 employees officially being laid off. Now, there are some concerns being raised on whether these laid off employees will get their severance pay. There have been rallies held today across the province and this week saying that some of these workers, especially the ones who have been working for decades, are being denied severance and benefits. Meanwhile, they're accusing of executives getting millions of dollars in bonuses. In the most recent court documents that we're seeing, it says Hudson's Bay will pay their employees their accrued vacation, but the company does not expect to give out any other termination or severance pays. Now, the union, Unifor, representing these workers, says some of these workers are being owed tens of thousands of dollars, are being denied their benefits. These workers can apply for financial support through a federal government program called the Wage Earner Protection Program, but that is capped around $8,000. So a lot of these workers working decades for Hudson's Bay may only have their severance pay capped at that. We spoke to the president of Unifor Local 40 about this issue today at one of the rallies. Here's what he had to say.
These members, because of the situation of being unsecured creditors in the liquidation process, they are at the back of the line to get their severance, which they should be entitled to. And also the third component is the enhancement that we require to the Wage Earner Protection Program run through Service Canada and the government that needs to be enhanced for workers like this and other workers across the country.
And the union president there also saying that this is a systemic issue, that they're hoping that this will change, calling for changes to the federal law when a company does go under. But as for the future of the Hudson's Bay, all locations, including this one at Eglinton Square, will be closing by the end of this weekend. And Lena Bakari, that means 8,300 people will be out of a job in just a few days.
All right. Thanks so much, CJ. Appreciate that. Outside of Hudson's Bay, kind of the end of an era there. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, well, a new survey of Canadians approaching retirement finds that many are planning on carrying their mortgage into retirement.
Yeah, quite a few people said this. A survey conducted by Leger for Royal LePage found 29% of Canadians, they're going to continue paying their mortgage after they retire, and nearly half say they don't plan to downsize their home after they stop working. According to Stats Canada, half as many senior households had mortgage debt 10 years ago. CP24 Breakfast spoke with Royal LePage President and CEO Phil Soper about the latest report.
Right now, we're finding people behaving like they're just the same as when they're working, but without a job. Yeah. So they're carrying a mortgage later. Of course, they're retiring later. It's just creeping up over time and living considerably longer, about 50% longer after retirement than their grandparents did. So it makes sense.
The survey also notes that the average age of retirees in Canada has been gradually increasing. The average retirement age was 65.3 in 2024. That's 1 year later than it was in 2020.
Yeah, my mom's 66. Still working.
Still working.
Doing it, making that money. It's 5:23, 21 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Well, the city plans to offer early registration for recreation programs for residents who live in the communities the centers serve. We're going to tell you more about that next. Welcome back. The city is looking to make it easier for people who live near free community and recreation centers to actually access programs there because it has been an issue.
Yeah, for sure. Torontonians who live close to 6 free rec centers will be able to sign up for programs like swimming lessons and fitness classes a week before the general public. The pilot project starts on June 3rd. It's part of an effort to protect space at rec facilities for those who live in the community and address high-demand programs. Residents can check if they're eligible for early registration by entering their address on the city's website.
When I first became the mayor, I met with the local residents. They said, Mayor, we can't access our community center because we don't have all the devices. And at 7 o'clock when we tried to press the button, by the time we press the button, it's gone. I know. So most of the programs are filled with people that are not from the local area. And the local community actually started, the young people started a pilot program and said to me that, hey, this is how you do it. Do it a week ahead. So they gave us the idea.
I will say we're certainly asking people to, there is an honor system around it. We're not asking for proof of residence for people to come into the center and use our center. We don't want to create that barrier. But there's ways that we can sort of audit the system by exception and determine whether or not we need to do any correction or re-education of the public in terms of how to access those programs.
Early registration will be available at the participating community centers for the summer, fall, and winter recreation periods.
All right. Baseball, recreational sport. Get your kid into it. The Blue Jays, they're looking for another win today in the Lone Star State.
And here's a well-hit ball down the line. It's gone.
Dalton Varsho providing the power for the Blue Jays against the Texas Rangers yesterday. He leads the Jays with 8 home runs in just 20 games. Kevin Gausman pitched into the 9th inning, giving up just a single run in the 2-1 win. Bowden Francis gets the start tonight in first pitch in just a couple of hours at 8:05.
And it is 5:28 right now, 29 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
Police are investigating 3 separate fires at Scarborough restaurants in the last 4 days, and they say 2 of them are connected. We're giving you a live shot of one of the incidents. We're going to have more on how the community is reacting next.
As the anthem reminds us, the true north is indeed strong and free.
A stunning display of sovereignty in the face of Donald Trump's annexation threats. The king delivering a rare speech from the throne and opens Canada's parliament, and we have reaction.
A string of suspicious fires at restaurants in Scarborough has investigators trying to connect the dots. We're now learning at least 2 are linked.
And saying goodbye to the Bay. Canada's oldest retailer is getting ready to shutter all stores by Sunday. And that's also when more than 8,000 people will lose their jobs. We hear their concerns this hour.
You're watching Live at 5. Good evening, and thanks so much for being with us. I'm Lena Lattifat.
And I'm Phil Perkins.
A day of pomp and pageantry in the nation's capital as King Charles III and Queen Camilla completed a whirlwind trip to Canada in the midst of a trade war with the U.S. The royal visit affirming Canada's strength on the world stage as the country faces annexation threats from the White House. The 2 arrived at the Senate building by horse-drawn landau this morning, the king receiving full military honors, including a 100-person honor guard, 21-gun salute, and an inspection of the guard.
The Royals were joined by Governor General Mary Simon for an Indigenous performance when they arrived inside. They then joined a procession into the Senate where he delivered the speech from the throne, laying out the government's goals for the new session of Parliament.
And King Charles also highlighted the federal government's priorities in his speech today.
To keep communities safe, the government will hire 1,000 more RCMP personnel. It will change firearms licensing and strengthen enforcement of yellow and red flag laws. Weapons licenses for those convicted of intimate partner violence and those subject to protection orders will be revoked. Through the deployment of scanners, drones, and helicopters, additional personnel, and canine teams, the government will stem the tide of illegal guns and drugs across the border.
And for reaction to the throne speech and all the symbolism behind it, let's bring in CP24's Arda Zakarian, the king, also talking about the relationship his family shares with this country, Arda.
Yes, very much so. I mean, his mother came in 1977 and did the throne speech then, and he referenced his mother a few times when he was here as well. Now, in his speech, the king touched on Canada's relationship with the United States, saying that the two have begun defining a new economic and security relationship to deliver transformational benefits for both sovereign nations. He also said Canada can build new alliances and a new economy. CTV royal commentator Afia Hagen says the throne speech will also be getting a lot of attention south of the border.
This will be being watched very closely by your friends in the South. Donald Trump's administration will be all over this, and him himself, because we know how much he loves the British royal family, was a huge fan of Queen Elizabeth II, hugely respects King Charles III as well. And, you know, King Charles III in this situation can be the Trump whisperer, absolutely. You know, President Trump really respects him and listens to what he says.
Of course, there are critics. Speaking to reporters outside the House of Commons, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says the party isn't satisfied with the plans that were laid out in the throne speech, and he would like to make amendments to it.
There are some messages we want to see is plans. So we're going to put forward what we consider to be a constructive amendment that will add very specific plans. So, for example, the government says they want to get projects built. Great. We've got just the plan to do it. Repeal C-69, the anti-development law, repeal the energy cap, the offshore shipping ban, the electric vehicle mandate, and unlock the incredible investment that could bring jobs and self-sufficiency to Canada.
And before King Charles left to go back to England, as you said, Lena, he referenced the Queen, his mother, saying that it's a great source of pride that in the following decades since her visit, Canada has continued to set an example to the world in her conduct and values and be a force for good. And he mentioned this off the top of the show, as well as the anthem reminds us the true north is indeed strong and free. Back to you both.
All right, Arda, live in the newsroom. Thank you. Appreciate that. It is 5:35, 21 degrees. Watch live at 5.
A live look now at the scene of one of 3 restaurant fires in Scarborough in the last 4 days. 2 of them are believed to be connected. We're going to tell you more about what investigators think is happening here. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Let's go to Scarborough. Police investigating 3 separate fires at restaurants in the last 4 days, and they say 2 of them are connected.
For the latest on the investigation, let's go live to CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan, who's at Kennedy and Lawrence, just one of the fire scenes tonight. Steve, what are investigators saying?
Well, let's talk about the 3 different fires. The one this morning happened over on Birchmount. It was a Greek restaurant. That fire was completely unrelated to the next 2 occurrences that we are going to discuss. But nonetheless, very concerning that you've got 3 fires in 4 or 5 days happening within a short distance of one another in Scarborough. So police tell us today that last Friday, an Indian restaurant in the area here of Kennedy Road was set on fire, and Kennedy Road in Lawrence. And police say that 3 suspects entered a restaurant early in the morning with people inside, and they doused it with a flammable liquid, set it on fire, and they fled. Luckily and thankfully, the people inside of that restaurant were able to flee, and that is now being investigated as an arson. Saturday morning at 3:30, another Indian restaurant at this location where I am at right now. 3:30 in the morning, this restaurant went up in flames as well. We obtained video surveillance that we're showing you right now on Saturday afternoon, and it shows 2 suspects smashing the window of this restaurant and then dousing it with a flammable liquid and then setting it on fire. You can see one of those 2 suspects has a canister in their hand. So police tell us today that the 2 Indian restaurants that were set on fire were both arsons. They're being investigated as connected occurrences. We do not know what the connection is, nor do we know if the 3 suspects on Friday's occurrence are the same suspects or the two suspects that we are seeing in this video right now. What we also know is that there was a silver Honda, believed to be a Honda minivan type of vehicle that was seen leaving this occurrence here on Saturday. Here it is right here. Those two suspects that we just showed you got into that vehicle. Now police are actively looking for it as well. So they are investigating two arsons, two Indian restaurants believed to be connected. Unsure what the connection is. The Birchmount fire this morning has no connection, according to police, with these two arsons that are being investigated by Toronto police. Here's more from the police we heard from earlier this afternoon, and we heard from Councillor Michael Thompson as well. Let's listen to both.
For the second arson on May 24th, investigators have advised that there's two suspects involved in that, and they are both described as male with a thin build, wearing all dark clothing. And in terms of a suspect vehicle, like I said, the only information we have right now is a silver SUV, possibly a Honda CR-V. And a distinctive thing about that vehicle is you'll see in the images that we're releasing, there's a purple light that is displayed in the dashboard area on the driver's side.
The question is, what is actually going on and why is this taking place at this time? And I think those are some of the answers that we will need in order to give assurance to the community that they're safe. These are places that people frequent. This is a plaza I frequent in the community and so on. And in as much as this most recent fire occurred in the wee hours of the morning, it's consistent with respect to what has taken place in the other locations as such. But I don't know that we can draw a correlation to this just yet.
So that suspect vehicle is a Honda CR-V or an SUV and not a minivan like I originally said. So I misspoke. And you can see by the shot we're showing you right now, there is heavy equipment in removing all of the debris. There was some concern, guys, when we were here on Saturday with regards to the integrity of this structure because of the significant damage. And you can certainly see why. And lastly, other business owners up here tell me that this Indian restaurant that you're looking at right now, or what's left of it, just opened 2 weeks ago. So that may be part of this investigation as well as the investigators determine who and why these fires were intentionally set. Send us back to you guys.
Oh, that damage, extensive.
Yeah. No, I drove by it a couple days ago, and there's nothing left. There's nothing. It's all gone. Complete arson job. All right. Thank you much, Steve. Okay. Also moving on. One person has been charged after a body was found inside a home in Leslieville.
Chopper 24 over that scene on Larchmont Avenue near Queen Street. Police say officers responded to the home yesterday afternoon for a wellness check where a dead person was found inside. 67-year-old Bobby Choi Yin Kwan was arrested at the scene and charged with interference to a body. An autopsy is being conducted to determine how that person died. Residents can expect officers in and around the home for the next few days as this investigation continues.
Sticking in the East End, two more people are facing charges in a deadly double shooting that happened in Riverdale last month. 18-year-old
Quentin Kaza and 20-year-old Jeremy McNeil were fatally shot while sitting in a vehicle near Logan and Bain Avenues on April 15th. The 17-year-old boy was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder back on May 3rd. Police now say another 17-year-old boy and 18-year-old who's now been identified as Abdul Rahman Zain were taken into custody in Barrie yesterday. Both are charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder.
We know this incident has caused great sadness and concern in the Riverdale community. 2 young lives have been lost to violence, and many lives have been changed forever. We hope that these arrests offer some reassurance that those responsible are being held accountable. Now, this remains an active investigation, and we are continuing to gather evidence. We ask that anyone with further information to please come forward and speak with us or call Crime Stoppers anonymously.
Well, these are the 9th and 10th homicides in Toronto so far this year.
Well, 3 men are facing charges in an attempted murder investigation in Richmond Hill.
York Regional Police sharing photos of guns and drugs seized during the 2 raids. The investigation began after a woman was dropped off at a hospital with a gunshot wound in the morning of May 16th. Investigators eventually determined that she was shot near Yonge and Major Mackenzie. 29-year-old Surgeon Dino and 31-year-old Deshaun Abrahams are facing several charges, including attempted murder. 32-year-old Jason Zagazeta is charged with accessory after the fact.
2 people have been injured in a collision in North York.
Yeah, Toronto police are responding to the 2-vehicle crash just after 3:30 this afternoon. Here's a live shot of the crash site. As we see, you can see a tow truck moving one out of the 2 vehicles from the intersection of Don Mills and York Mills. Obviously, a very busy intersection leading to the DVP and the 401. The crash caused one of the vehicles to roll over. That was the Audi SUV that's getting towed away now. That was rolled over. You can see the damage on the driver's side. 2 people suffered minor injuries. The cause of the crash now being looked at.
And the province's police watchdog has taken over the investigation into a crash in Burlington.
Another overturned vehicle. This one, a white sedan, could be seen on Appleby Line with a hydro pole leaning over the road near Britannia. Halton police say 5 people were taken into custody at the scene in connection with home invasions in Oakville and Milton between 3 and 4 o'clock this morning. 2 were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police say no one was injured in either of the home invasions.
It's now 5:45, 21 degrees out there, and you're watching Live at 5.
New court documents say more than 8,300 people will have lost their jobs and some benefits by the time Hudson's Bay closes their doors this Sunday. Welcome back. Former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien is recovering from minor heart surgery after receiving a stent.
Yeah, Chrétien was absent from King Charles's speech from the throne today. A spokesperson for the former Prime Minister says he was admitted to hospital in Ottawa yesterday after feeling a little unwell. The 91-year-old was transferred to the Ottawa Heart Institute to receive a stent. The spokesperson says Chrétien is recovering well and he is expected to return home very soon to pursue his normal activities.
Well, Liberal House Leader John Fraser went after Premier Doug Ford during question period today over his government's proposed bill to fast-track major infrastructure and resource extraction projects in the north.
Speaker, the clarion call we're hearing from First Nations is put a stop to Bill 5. That's what we're hearing. That's what we heard yesterday. That's what we've heard inside this chamber. And it's very clear that that's what they want. And I see the government has offered an amendment to Bill 5 in the preamble. So if there's anything that First Nations have heard, it's a lot of words. They were looking for action, not more words in a preamble. So will the Premier actually take some action, listen to First Nations, and pull Bill 5?
Let me just inform our relationship with First Nations. Since we've taken into office, 6 years ago, they have told me over and over and over again, from national chiefs to regional chiefs. By the way, I had the regional chief down to my house breaking bread the other day. I said every single speech, I want collaboration and cooperation with the First Nations. I treat them with the utmost respect. We have done more for the First Nations than any government in the history of this province, including the Liberals and NDP that sat there and did nothing for the First Nations. I always say to the chiefs when I meet them and I go visit them or I have them to my house, they tell me never ever in the history would we be able to call the Premier on his cell phone and get a call back the same day. There isn't a day that goes by that I'm not speaking to the chiefs of the First Nations. Not to mention the $3 billion we're offering First Nations to be a partner.
Bill 5, or the Protect Ontario by Unleashing Our Economy Act, would allow for the creation of special economic zones in order to move along critical mining and infrastructure projects, particularly in the resource-rich Ring of Fire. It's faced opposition from First Nations, environmentalists, and civil liberty groups. The Ford government, for its part, has said it's open to amending that bill.
All right, well, less than a week to go now before all Hudson's Bay stores will close down as part of a court-approved liquidation process. Store closings also mean thousands of people will be out of a job.
CP24's Sija Liu joins us live with the latest from outside the Bay store at Eglinton Square. And all these people about to lose their jobs have some very serious concerns.
That's right, Lena and Phil. These concerns have to do with severance pay and benefits, but we're talking around 8,300 employees set to lose their job by Sunday. That is when all Hudson's Bay locations will be closing down for good. Now, around 900 employees or so will be keeping their jobs for just about 2 weeks longer, helping close down the stores, but then they too will lose their jobs by June 15th. Now, there have been a lot of issues raised around severance pay and benefits. There have been rallies held by the union Unifor representing these workers, saying that some of their employees, especially the long-term ones, are supposed to be getting paid tens of thousands of dollars in severance, but they won't be getting that. According to new court documents that we're seeing, it says Hudson's Bay will pay employees their accrued vacation, but the company is not expected to give any other termination or severance payments. These workers can apply for financial support through a federal government program called the Wage Earner Protection Program, but that caps the amount they can get at $8,800. So now the union representing these workers says this is only a portion of the compensation they should be getting. They're asking Hudson's Bay to be accountable, to pay their employees what they're worth. Here's some more reaction from some of the shoppers we spoke to today, who says it's a really bittersweet moment to see Hudson's Bay go.
Just feels really sad, you know. I like the emblems of the Hudson Bay Company. It just feels like it's a real Canadian institution, and it's sad to see a Canadian company not survive.
I've lived in Toronto my whole life, and it's losing a major sort of iconic thing downtown here. We were just talking about the Christmas display and how we're really going to miss that, and how it was a reliable place to go for so many things.
We got some really good prices, 80% off of brand name stuff. But the fact that it's closing, and there's going to be a lot of changes made to the landmark. So we're kind of like I said, it's bittersweet.
And you heard from some of those shoppers saying Hudson's Bay was a reliable place to shop. It was also a reliable workplace for thousands of workers. But we are looking at the end of an era here after 355 years, counting down the final few days of Hudson's Bay as we know it. And Phil and Lena, that also means 8,300 workers set to lose their jobs officially in just a few days. Back to you.
It's a lot of people and a lot of livelihoods. Sija Liu reporting live. Thanks so much, Sija. Well, 11 people remain in hospital after 65 were injured when a car rammed into a crowd of soccer fans in Liverpool yesterday.
The 53-year-old driver of the car was arrested on suspicion of murder. Police say the man is also being held on suspicion of dangerous driving and driving on drugs. They believe he followed an ambulance to get through roadblocks that had been set up for a parade to celebrate Liverpool's Premier League championship.
An extensive investigation into the precise circumstances of the incident is ongoing, and we continue to ask people not to speculate on the circumstances surrounding the incident and refrain from sharing distressing content online.
Police say the 11 people who remain in hospital are all stable and they are expected to recover.
Yes, all right. It is 5:55, 21 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
The last Canadian team left in the NHL playoffs will go for their third straight win in the Western Conference Finals. More on the Oilers' playoff run. That's next. The Oilers are looking for their third straight win in the Western Conference Finals tonight.
Oh, yeah, they're hosting the Dallas Stars in Game 4 tonight. After dropping the series opener, Edmonton took the next 2 games and now lead the best-of-7 series 2 games to 1. Tonight's game at 8 o'clock.
Well, it's been a historic day in Ottawa, and so many have been wondering, what is Donald Trump taking from this? Well, we now have reaction to this morning's historic throne speech delivered by King Charles. Donald Trump posting this on Truth Social. I told Canada, we'll try to bring that up for you, which very much wants to be part of our fabulous Golden Dome system, that it will cost $61 billion if they remain a separate but unequal nation, but will cost $0 if they become our cherished 51st state. They are considering the offer, so the 51st state talk continues, and no mention of what happened in our nation's capital today.
Yeah, well, yeah. he had stuff to do today, I guess. All right, I want to know who they are. Who are they?
Yeah.
Who is
so
they?
many questions.
Always. It is 5:59 right now, 21 degrees. You're watching Charles Breaking News, CP24.
And we're live at Kennedy and Lawrence tonight, the scene of one of 3 restaurant fires in 4 days. Thanks for watching. This investigation continues. CTV News at 6 is next.